Listen on Spotify, our hearts in play. Apple's got the vibe, hit record, press play. Live on TikTok, streaming all the way. YouTube, Facebook, we're here to stay. Tales of the hustle, dreams come alive. Building the future, watch them strive. Why use? Tune in and vibe the drive. Why use? Tune in and vibe the drive.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know how it is over here at the Waius podcast, man. We have my Uso right here, my Toko from Australia, Finau Fonua. Is a producer for ABC Radio Australia, or is it like ABC as a whole, as the media? How does that work out?
ABC Pacific, so that's our Pacific wing of ABC News. So we broadcast out to the Pacific Islands. We target the Pacific Island audience.
How did that all come about? Like, where did you hear about it? I mean, obviously you went to school for it and all that. How did that all start?
Well, I was kind of pulled into it because there weren't enough islanders in it. And because they set up, before I was with ABC Pacific, I was with Radio New Zealand, with the Pacific wing of Radio New Zealand in Auckland. And I didn't apply for that job. They approached me because they didn't have enough Pacific Islanders in there. And it was the same thing with the role that I'm in now. Not enough Pacific Island journalists, and so they need to fill that quota, and so they actively look for Pacific Islander journalists, but have problems finding them. So if you're a Pacific Islander out there and you want to get into the journalism industry, there's a good time to do it because there's not enough. Not enough, yeah.
Okay, so what is the expectation, or from your, as a person of experience in the producing or of this particular media sector, what are some of the skill sets that for our islanders to be looking out for?
You have to be a journalist to be a journalist. You have to be inquisitive. You have to be curious, and you have to be passionate about the news. If you're covering the Pacific Island region, you have to be passionate about reporting what's happening there. You have to be passionate about human interest stories. So finding Pacific Islanders who are doing well, who are doing something awesome. Recently, we had the U.S. elections.
Mm-hmm.
So my team we were thinking, we should check out what the Pacific Islanders over in the US are thinking, because it's all focused on different other groups. So we're interested in where the Pacific Islander community is standing. And so I looked for people, and it was a diverse set of views, and it was interesting and very insightful. We learned a lot from it. That was an interesting broadcast. And actually on tomorrow's show, we have a really good interview with a girl who just became an analog astronaut for NASA, Fijian girl.
Nice.
So to listen to her story, she was an orphan and she was adopted and ended up in America, and she's a pilot. And
Wow.
maybe one day she'll be an astronaut. So stories like that, really interesting.
That's crazy. So it's really trying to share. Yeah, basically, that's pretty much what YUS is doing, right? Just kind of shedding a light for everybody out there to give a spotlight for the world to be informed of an individual and their passion. That's interesting, man. So are you doing any journalism, or are you just producing right now on the?
Mostly producing in this role, but I produce for Pacific Beat, that radio show that runs every morning. I'm mostly producing, so that's lining up interviews, producing the show, making sure it runs smoothly. I also am uploading the audio segments to our website. I'm writing up the summary and the stories that we covered. Yeah, so you have to be a good writer. It is a difficult job and
Yeah.
requires a lot of yeah, a lot of work. It's not easy. Yeah, you definitely have to work it. It took me a few years of experience to get here. So
Wow.
um yeah. And I
It-
think that's probably one of the reasons why there are not enough Pacific Islanders pursuing it because I think they kind of give up after the first few years. My encouragement is just to keep grilling your way through. Yeah.
you think the peak of interest, like just to be interested in that kind of field, is a lack. It's kind of lacking. Like a lot of islanders are all automatically sports is one of the main thing that you see people go to, becoming a pastor or a reverend in the Christianity, industry, or stuff like that. Could it be? Is that might be some of the reasons why you don't see a lot of or we don't see a lot of Polynesians in this media world? What's your take
I
on that
think
one?
I think it's just to do with the process of becoming a journalist, the writing, the hours involved. I
Mm,
think the passion of wanting to share, like what you're doing, is
mhm.
there. We have a sports show, and we do have Pacific Islander sport presenters, and they're very passionate about what they do, and they speak about sport in Australia. And I imagine you definitely have a lot of islanders out in the US who would love to like to have a show dedicated to American football. I could easily see that happening. But yeah, I think it's just the whole work of writing and meeting deadlines and so forth that puts people off. But the passion is definitely there, I think. Even with the religious part, we have a religious show that runs every Sunday. So I think ABC is kind of recognizing those different areas. And I think yeah, I think it would be good if we could see that across the board. Yeah, see it in the US as well. I think podcasts like yours are good as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a news agency. Even just having shows like yours, I think it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Man,
Um,
that's interesting. I know. That's what I was going to ask. With the whole, well, I don't know if it's out there in Australia, but in the U.S., as you can see with Joe Rogan podcast, with all these big names, media, Patrick Bet David, just a whole bunch of them, always like claiming, like, fuck the fucking media. You know what I'm saying? Lies. And of course, our currently winner of President Donald Trump, who's always advocating for like fake media. Obviously Fox is up there now. So, but there's a lot of things going on. What are you seeing on your end of Australia? Is it the same thing too, where the social media and the podcasting industry has elevated to where it's kind of taking out the audience and the trust from the audience? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I don't think that's the same in Australia and New
Hmm.
Zealand. It's still people trust the news over here.
Hmm.
Like most of the well, at least on the Pacific side, yeah, most of the opinion shows and the Pacific news shows still comes from news agencies rather than through podcasts. But mind you, in the Pacific Islands, in Tonga, I noticed for the Tongan language, most of the opinion shows and most of a lot of the news reporting comes from podcasts or
Wow.
Facebook. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of different. I noticed that.
It's interesting though too, man. Like I said, I'm really glad to have like besides the Samoan, like an actual Tongan on the podcast because we are trying to expand out there to be diversified. By the way, to the listeners, I've been working on, like I've been mentioned it before on a couple of the episodes. First of my how to start a podcast is going to be launching and coming out this week. So look out for it on the YouTube channels. And I'm thinking about we might be able to put it on Facebook from our other video, probably on Spotify too. Who knows? But anyways, just wanted to shoot that out there, side gig. Man, how is the culture between? Because I noticed I can see that outside that are people that are not Polynesian when they're looking from the outside, they look at our island people are all as one, like we're similar. So I understand that part. We have similarity, but the culture, I feel like it's really different. For when it comes to Tongans and what you guys stand for. I know you guys still have the king and the queen and what do you guys call that out there? The whole what's the word for that? The royalties and stuff. There's still is it monarchy? Monarchy,
Yeah,
is that what
yeah,
it's called?
yeah.
Versus us American Samoan. Well, I'm from the U.S. territory. We don't have any of that kind of stuff. We just stop at chief. So to me, I find that interesting because I want the listeners to get informed about the our beautiful island of Tonga, man. Can you shed a little bit of light, like the difference, and is it? I've done a little research this past week, not because you were coming on the platform, but I was interested in the island of Tonga and the way you guys go about things. Because even over here in the U.S., uh, the working, I see more Tongan families, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs, meaning that they have their own businesses, compared to us from American Samoa who are working as a working class citizens versus doing the entrepreneurship role. Is that something that's brought or taught to back home for you guys? Well, what's your take on that?
Well, just to start with your first question regarding um the difference in chiefly systems
Mm-hmm.
in Samoa and Tonga. As you know, in Samoa you have the Matai system. So you have different chiefs for each village or each different areas in Samoa. Whereas in Tonga, it's and from my understanding in Samoa, it's not necessarily hereditary. Um, People can be bestowed Matai titles and can earn it. Whereas in Tonga, it's strictly hereditary. So you have 33 chiefs, I believe, in Tonga, and only their sons can inherit that. And they're called the Hawaii. And then you have the king, and he's the head of the whole system, the head of state, and it's also hereditary with him. So with Tonga, it's a lot more, um, yeah, it's a lot more. I don't want to use the word tyrannical. It's a lot more, yeah, authoritarian in its structure. I find the Samoan system is a lot more liberal because of how um it's not hereditary over there. They kind of appoint their chiefs according to how well they do in the community.
Pretty
Um
much. I mean, that's what it's looking like, unfortunately. I think
mhm.
it, like you said, man. I think it comes to the villages and the family last name of how they want to appoint their chiefs and stuff like that. Because uh, Western Samoa, or nowadays they respectfully Samoa, is different from American Samoa and how we run our Matai system. I come from the island of Mangua. I'm not too familiar with it, but I do understand that you have to go back to the island in order to get for. So, in other words, what you were saying is like us in the U.S., the families can bestow a chief name to any of the family members they want to, which is the elders. But it's only going to stay within that state or city that you're in. It doesn't count if you go back home to the islands. You need to go back to the island of Manua to get blessed. There's a ceremonial thing that goes on before it is granted upon the whole nation or the world, so to speak. So yeah, that's why I was asking. I was like, man, I see the difference, the uniqueness of each culture and what you guys bring And I did wanted to ask the Tongan people. I've noticed there's only two religions that really stand out, which is what is it? Mormons because of in Utah, and then the other one, it's a Christianity, but I'm not
Jews.
sure which one. Either it's
Um,
Pope, Catholic, or Methodist.
Methodist, yeah.
Methodist, right?
Um, yeah, yeah. The two biggest at the moment, the biggest denomination is was Methodist, and then the more Church of Latter-day Saints. Most of the Tongan diaspora in America are
Yes,
Mormons.
that's how they
Yeah,
come out here.
uh,
Do that.
yeah. A lot of them go to Utah, are settled in Utah, and um, yeah. Yeah, most Tongans in America are Mormons. Um, and yeah, to answer your question before about entrepreneurship, I think, I guess because um in America the Tongan diaspora don't have the same kind of rights as American Samoans,
That
they're
makes sense.
probably they're under more pressure to innovate and
Yeah.
yeah, if that's the right word. So I think that's where it comes from. It's more the pressure of having to find out a way of yeah of
But
selling it.
it's changing because of the generation, like my generation, right? Uh, the generation I'm 40 years old, so all my generation, they're now they were born in the US, so they become citizens and it goes on from there. But as a longevity, just from my upbringing and being around the West Coast, I've noticed that a lot of the Tongan families had their own business. And I'm just like, man, why didn't we have that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the family, the Tongan brothers are like, nah, man, I'd rather just be working a 9 to 5. I'm like, yeah, this guy, we all see both of the good and the bad of each side, of whatever it is, and whether it's jobs or your own business and stuff like that, man. But have you been doing the media thing your whole life, or you done something before this? Because so they picked you. Why did they pick you out of all the other islanders? Were you doing media stuff before?
Yeah. Well, there weren't many other islanders with journalism experience, which I had. I've been doing journalism since 2013, so I've been doing it for a while. Yeah, I studied journalism in Christchurch. That's a city in New Zealand.
Hmm.
Um, and then I went back to Tonga. I did a few years I worked for a news agency called Matangi Tonga Online, and then I came back to New Zealand, and yeah, um, originally I was gonna work for a consumer magazine, but the editor knew knew um the um the news department that covered the Pacific in Radio New Zealand, and they needed a Pacific Islander, so she recommended me to them, and yeah, um, and then a similar thing happened with ABC News. So it's just the opportunities opened up because of just the demand for Pacific Island journalists. Yeah, and I think it's important to have um our own to have Pacific Island journalists um uh, telling our stories, covering what's happening in our islands. I think that's very important. It's good to have journalists from other races and so forth to report on it. Having that expertise and those good skills, but it's at the same time, you really want you want journalists from those particular islands who grew up there and who have those family connections, who have that personal insight, telling our story.
Percentage of islanders that is in Australia and New Zealand. I'm assuming there's more of you guys to where it is needed to have a media of Polynesians versus here in the U.S. we're such a small percentage number race wise that it's not. I don't want to say the word relevant, but pretty much that's what it's heading towards because I don't see. I've always asked this question before to my fellow hosts before when we started this whole podcast, like how can we, I see so much out there in Australia, I see it in New Zealand, big ups to you guys for holding us down as Polynesians, but you never see that in America, right? And it's not like our people are not trying to make it happen. It's just that we don't have that in like you have where I wish they have enough to look out for islanders like, oh, we're recruiting for Polynesians to come to the
Yeah.
panel. You don't see that because it's not,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's just the numbers. Is it the race quantity? What is the percentage out there for Polynesians in Australia?
In Australia, it's growing. There's still more in New Zealand, but at the moment, there's a large exodus of New Zealanders to Australia. And I guess because Australia is near to the Pacific, well, it's in the Pacific region. So you have that audience. With the United States, I think because it's such a big country and um, I guess the Polynesian diaspora is spread out. But I did check if there's news agencies, and you're right, there isn't any news agency in America that's dedicated to Pacific Islanders, at least from what I see. There is one for Hawaiians,
Yeah,
in Hawaii, but yeah, and I think that's the reason why podcasts like yours are springing up because you're filling that gap, filling that vacancy.
that's
Um,
crazy. You're saying that, bro. That's crazy because I was not planning on being that kind of medium person. I, I just wanted to be a podcast just to talk shit. You know what I'm saying? But realizing that it's coming with responsibilities that I really was not looking forward to. But I feel empowered by our culture, by the Polynesian people as they're coming to the platform to share their stories and to share light. Because I find myself it is important for us to know that stuff. Because let's be honest, just because we're a Samoans, American Samoa is a U.S. territory in the U.S., we still don't have a voice. The only thing that's positive about and that keeps us relevant in America is the fact of percentage-wise of recruitment when they're joining the military. That's about
yeah,
it. Nothing else. We're the highest percentage of recruits. And for us American Samoan residents or community, it's our way out of the island. It's either that or you're great at American football or whatever, or you're just you're blessed with to become Einstein with a brain that you're good at math. But there's not a lot of us that are like that, so it's a tough thing. We're seeing that, and we are trying. I mean, it just kind of sucks, and I hate to be like the one sounding like the only one that's like kind of bashing on Dwayne Johnson, but it's one of them things. It's like he likes to promote our race, throw it in our face. Oh yeah, but then he ends up saying the mana, or like he's like he has the Samoan mix with the black, but he's speaking like a Hawaiian, which it just doesn't make no sense. It's just nothing against the brother, but it's just like he's not even advocating for the Islanders for. And the reason why I'm saying that because Islanders out here, as you know, everybody's above 6 feet and tall
yeah,
as adults, and of course we're over 200 weight pounds. I don't know what that is in your weight for international, but to us kilograms, I think it's 127 and up. So that's heavy,
yeah,
right? Uh, the stigma is people look at us as big, giant security guards or just strong people. But I'm not stupid too. I know that they also look at it as it's like, oh, these are just giants. They're dumb. They're dumbasses. Excuse my language, but that's just how they look at us, And to me, I want to break that stigma out here in the U.S. It's like, dude, it's really annoying, and I guess it can go aside with racism or whatever, but more towards the weight or the size. But it's just when I'm just rambling up, bro. You have a lot of that going on out there in Australia because it feels like you guys have a lot of more opportunities versus us.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot more opportunities here. There's a big labor shortage practically in every industry, every sector here. That's why there's so many New Zealanders moving here. I read recently, even with the police, Australian police, they're poaching police officers from New Zealand. And yeah, you even have a few Americans coming down as well to fill in some jobs in Australia. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities down under. And I went to the United States last year and I noticed yeah, it's pretty tough up there. At least in San Francisco and Hawaii where I went to, it looks like it's difficult. Yeah, trying to get a career out there. And yeah, I've heard from friends over there that Australia is I don't yeah, they say there's more opportunities down here.
One of my cousin who was in the board of education for the city of San Francisco. Him and the other island woman lost their seat. They were in the board of education, one of the seating councils, and they lost their seat because of some other race was complaining about it because they were starting to implement a lot of Polynesian stuff too to the table. Well, a lot of rich folks didn't like it, so they kicked them out. The voting numbers came from other out of state too, which is like you're supposed to just it's supposed to be just be the city of San Francisco. Well, long story short is they got their voties from Denver, Colorado, and everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? And it's just crazy because we have nothing to prove that the election was rigged for my cousin's sake and the other Polynesian woman who was trying to get up there to help our Polynesian people because when you move to America, the education, if you ain't from a family who makes money, which is not a lot of us, you can only count it within your fingers. You end up in the projects, in the low paid areas, and it's very hard to get out of there. And us Islanders, man, we're easy to get along and to adapt to whatever your surrounding is. So what can you do when you're just surrounded around just poverty? You're gonna adapt and try to come out of it. And it's such a struggle and a hard thing. Which our Islanders, big up to all the Polynesians. We even though we're not big on the media side out here in the U.S. I also want to be transparent. America is a great country to live and to become somebody because there
Yeah.
is a lot of us that it's not on the media that are living a great life, that are middle class, that are rich, that are entrepreneurs. There's so many of us that are like that in the US. It's just not being spotlighted on the media, which I would love to see more of it?
Yeah. America's, yeah, I agree. It's definitely a great country. And yeah, if you do well there, you do really well. I can see that. Yeah, it I haven't thought about going to the US. It's just to the West Coast. Um, yeah, and from what I see, if you do well there, you do really well. But if you do badly, you do really badly. It just seems like the kind of place where people get punished for being poor. Um,
I wouldn't even say I don't even I'm not gonna say that's true, entirely true, because my family we were able to experience both because my family came from we were all migrated to the city of San Francisco back in the early 80s and the 70s. And as we were growing into the 2000, we were able to the early late 90s and 2000, we experienced the poverty side of things because our grandfather and grandmother and those that knew about stuff that were educated passed away. So we were just like my parents and their line were just spoiled kids that didn't have to get the education. They got the education, but they just chose not to, right? So it's one of them things when my grandfather and grandmother passed away, everything, the wealth went away too. So we had to learn hard. But we recovered and came back because why I say that is because of welfare. The help is out there. There's so much, that's why the Democrat is powerful in that particular part. And of course, the Republican stands alone as far as being an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? But there's opportunity. So if you was to hit bottom, you do have a way out because there is stuff out there for you, fun wise. They're not going to leave you hanging. Why do we have a lot of bums on the street? I can't answer that part. I just can't. I'm fathom. I don't know how to answer that part. It's just I feel like Polynesians we are blessed in a way because of the sense of community. You're not going to want to see another islander struggle. You're going to bring them into your home and help them out. So and it doesn't matter if you're Hawaiian, Tongan, Samoan, Fijian, whatever. Your island people. You're going to bring them in and help them out. So yeah, man, good man. If you do come out, man, I'm always advocating for everybody. They need to move to the South or the Midwest. Why? Because of real estate is it's way lower. It's beyond bunkers aff- how affordable it is in the South of America and the Northwest and the Midwest. And that's the thing that a lot of the island people, and a lot of also other race in the U.S. does not realize
Yeah.
is everybody's so caught on for the New York City and the East Coast, Florida, and then you have
Yeah.
The whole California, and then Texas, but people are not understanding why there's so many white and black race are profiting in this in the South and Midwest because nobody wants to advertise
Mm.
that because it's a beautiful place to be at, and the living cost is so affordable, and also the homes. You literally
Yeah.
can have your own mansion. Not that I'm saying I'm living in a mansion. I'm just sharing a little bit of like the opportunity that is out here. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people on the West Coast that I spoke to, um they don't know anything about
Yeah,
the sense of the country. It's just the East or the West, and that's it. Yeah. So I was kind of surprised by that. Um yeah, it's like the middle of America is unimportant.
it's like it's not
But
being. It's. I think the media themselves too is hiding it because a lot of
yeah.
them that are rich, the ones that are doing great, they all live in the South and the Midwest. I didn't even know that the state of Wisconsin, which is in the Midwest, is one of the main states that has the most mansions in the U.S. and nobody
Oh
knows
wow.
about it. I would have never known until I went there. And I'm just like, well, you hear T-Pain say that in one of his songs. But
Mhm.
there's little gems here and there. But yeah, man, I mean, that's why Tyler Perry is doing very well. And he started his own black Hollywood in Atlanta, Georgia, because Atlanta, Georgia is in the South. Because of the real
Yeah.
estate is affordable. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell my families and I'm trying to tell those like, bro, if we come over here to the South, we can build a city, a town, and we can prosper. We just need people to move. Why Oos podcast just needs to blow up like Joe Rogan for people to see that. Because Joe Rogan, I don't know if you know the story about Joe Rogan, but a lot of his comedian friends that are popular, Andrew Schultz and then other people, I don't want to name all the names out there, but Joe Rogan has his own little friend circles, and a lot of them drives or moves out or flies into Texas, where Joe Rogan's at, because of the real estate and the business that he has out there. It's kind of like the same thing, man. People just needs to migrate to a certain state and and build from there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Like Kentucky. I've never heard of any islanders living in Kentucky. Um, yeah, or Tennessee or Mississippi or places like that. Um, yeah, it just seems Yeah, so different. Um, and it has that stigma, I guess, of just not being inclusive.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
You know,
Do
hey,
you think?
it's like I tell my nephews and my siblings, like, look here, man, y'all need to stop following the trend. Just because what you see on TV, thinking, oh, that's this, that's that. I'm like, no, you gotta be your own man, and you gotta make something out of your own self. So I'm telling you, man, Kentucky is a beautiful city. So is Wisconsin. So is South Carolina. So is Atlanta. There's so many beautiful cities. Because I'm from San Francisco. Been in San Francisco, lived in Portland, Oregon, and Reno, Nevada. So been around the whole West Coast, even LA area. I was in LA for about 5 years out there in San Bernardino. So been around the whole West Coast and then also Seattle, Washington. Got a lot of families out there. So I know about the whole West Coast side, right? And I'm
Yeah, yeah,
telling you, there was as far as the the economic wise and the landscape and the weather, it is way better out here. Just minus the humidity. But you know, we're islanders. We come from humidity. You know what I'm saying? So that's
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, man. There's a big difference. Just the
Yeah.
Islanders just need to get up. I just need, you know what I need to do is bring pastors and popes and those are where I need to start with the leaders of the church. Have them come out here first to establish, and the people, the flocks will follow. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I don't know, man.
Yeah, yeah. Kentucky, are there a lot of islanders out there, by the way?
It's
Um,
they
do
come
you
and they
know?
go. So I'm gonna say no. There's not a lot of islanders, but there's because it's a military facility base. There's a lot of waves that come in waves, and they come, they stay, and then it goes out. So it depends which company is coming in. Where you'll see a lot of island. There are like what is I believe there is a Samoan church out here. I'm not sure if there's a Tongan church, but I know for sure there's a Samoan church, and there's Hawaiians that are out here. So a lot of them is from the military. But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be the one bringing it out here, be the forefather for Kentucky. I don't know, bro. We'll see, man.
It's surprising where you find islanders. There's a town in Alaska. It's the northernmost town in America.
Yes.
It's so cold there. There's no trees. No trees grow there. It's just a barren landscape, and they have a Tongan population there. And I'm just surprised how all these islanders end up in some places. And from what I'm told, they needed laborers to clear the road of
Mm,
black ice. So that's how islanders ended up there. But yeah,
wow.
it's
I was told
it's
that they were out, they migrated out there. Samoans out there was because of the fishing.
oh
So
wow.
hire a lot of people. They go out there for a few months and they get big money from it. Then they come back, and then also the so there's a lot more. There are way more There's a lot of Samoans in Alaska. That's for sure. In Anchorage. Yes, that's a little town of its own. There's a lot there, and then also in the I don't know if Missouri is considered the Midwest or the South, but in Missouri there is a lot of Samoans too. That's where the singer Spawn Breezy came out of. From
Oh wow.
yep, from Missouri. So there's a lot, and of course because of the army base that was out there. There's a lot in Texas because of Fort Hood, Texas, and because of the army base that was out there. So it's it fluctuates, you know. There is a lot of Samoans in Texas, that's for sure,
Yeah, yeah.
and Tongans too. A lot of Tongans and Fijians, Hawaiians. Yeah, man. I think if you
and
was to
for,
put all the Polynesians together in the U.S., there are probably more people. And it was I heard it was said before. I could be wrong, but there was I don't know where the data came from, but uh, in American Samoa, there was actually more Samoans in the U.S. that would triple the count in American Samoa because American Samoa is about 56,000 right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Tongans from what I've been told. There's more Tongans in America than in Tonga. Um, it's not the case yet in Australia. I've I think it is in New Zealand. But yeah, it's just it's become an overseas population. I mean, it's if you go back to when I go back to Tonga in December, when that's the time when most of the diaspora come back to visit, you can just you can hear all these different accents, these New Zealand, Australian, and American accents all around, and yeah, it feels like a different place, and I guess it's the same in Samoa as well as well. Yeah,
It's the same thing, man. I know when I was because I also was raised in American Samoa, so I had the privilege to live out there all the way to high school. So uh, when I have, Samoan Upolu folks from Western Samoa used to come down. I used to love hearing that New Zealandish or Australian accent that they have, because it's the English wise, because it's a lot different from us in America, and it's vice versa. Some, the Western Samoan people would love to hear us speak our language, and we're like, dude, it's weird. It's so weird. We're all the same blood, all the same culture, just like it's
yeah,
like a different dialogue, man. That's crazy.
yeah. Um, I, I didn't realize there's a lot of American Samoans. There's a few in New Zealand. And also I heard there's also quite a few Tongans in American Samoa as well. Um,
Yeah, there's a
is this
lot.
small? Yeah, yeah.
There's a
Um,
lot, man.
yeah, that's another area of the United States where you don't expect to find Tongans. Yeah. Um, it's interesting to see how that diaspora, um, and it's growing. In Tonga, the population hasn't really increased. So yeah, it's really changing. Um, and most of the diaspora, they don't speak the native tongue. Uh, I guess that's the same with Samoan. So that causes a lot of concern. Yeah, even with myself, I'm losing more and more of my understanding Tongan.
Hmm.
Because in Melbourne, the Pacific Island community here is actually very small.
In Melbourne,
Um,
for real? I thought it would
yeah,
be big in Melbourne.
no, it isn't. In Sydney and Brisbane, it is, but
Oh,
in
okay,
Melbourne, it's
okay.
quite small. Yeah, I haven't seen it. The only time I see islanders is at work, and sometimes I'll see an islander at the train station, from time to time, but it's quite small in Tonga, in Melbourne. Yeah.
Oh, so Melbourne is like Kentucky then.
Yeah. Melbourne is like the Kentucky of
The south of the
Australia.
Midwest, man. Nobody wants to come. They're just so caught up in the city life, the big areas, the light, the shiny lights and stuff, man.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I wanted to I remember in 2000 when I came back to the US, right? I remember coming out here, like you said, you didn't know that there was Tongans in Samoa, in American Samoa, which is there is. They also have Tongan churches out there. There's Tongan families, they're established, and we never had any problems. No, what do you call that? Diversity. I mean, what is the word? What's the word I'm looking for? No friction or no division. Division. There you go. There's no division in American Samoa. Then I come into the U.S. and in San Francisco, if you go a little bit down to San Ho, you find out there's more Tongans out there. Well, there are also a lot of Samoans. But in the early '90s, the Tongans and Samoans did not get along, and even in Utah, they didn't get along. This is the early 2000s. But it changed now. Thank God everything changed because I was really surprised off of that. And I'm like, dude, what the heck? Why are we arguing amongst each other? I came up and brought up from a culture where we all get along with Fijians, Hawaiians. It didn't matter. A race was a race. But I guess not being naive, just not knowing any better. I was just like, wow, this is real. Things does happen like that. Because I remember you guys asked me that question when I was interviewed through the radio, and I'm just like, I was being honest about it, of my own experience, but I am aware that it used to be like that. Even Cisco from the Western Conference podcast even said that because he's from San Francisco, and he said, I think Cisco's a few years older than me, and he's also backed that up too by saying, yeah, it wasn't like that in the late '90s and early 2000. But now, I mean, I think because of social media, because of the internet, giving out information where our people, Polynesians, can see, like, no, we need to be together. Because even when you get locked up, knock on wood, that, people don't get locked up, you find your people, all Polynesians start coming together. And we come together with Asians. So, um, as far as racism, I don't think that's a thing when it comes to Asians and just Polynesians alone. I mean, everybody here feels like Tongans and Samoans are the same thing. They all compare
Yeah.
us. They all say that we're Hawaiians, which we all
Yeah.
just don't like, yo. But it's just kind of like we understand enough to like, yeah, we're Hawaiians, whatever. They just don't know any better. It's understandable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was surprised when I went to California, um, how many people knew about Tongans and Samoans.
It's a norm,
I was
huh?
surprised. Yeah, but nobody knows about New Zealand. More people know about Tongans and Samoans, and I found out it's because of the American football and wrestling.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly American
Mhm.
football. It's the Tongan and Samoans that are really holding it down, for and the families are just prospering from it. Everybody's just doing so well from that. Football, American football, and I'm sure it's like that in Australia too, that the sports has brought a lot for our people. And the great thing about it that's not uh, been put a spotlight to is the fact that a lot of our Polynesian people are also excelling in education and political movements, and also the
Mhm.
media, main media and
Tulsi
social
Gabbard.
media. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, man, you know what I'm saying? Her, and then I think some of her partners are like Tongans too, that are in the White House. Yeah, they're all like we're all one, man. There's no, thank God that this election is over with. I mean, like I said before, man, I don't see that in the South because us in the South is just all about just the family and your own community, So
Mm.
it's different, man. It just depends where you work at. I mean, is it like that out there too? Because you work in a media world, it's kind of like you guys have your own world. It's your own world going on because out here in the U.S., I worked at the airport. And the airport, for everybody there's a lot of Polynesians, Samoans and Tongans, and all islanders work at the airport. That's its own world. Same thing in the military.
Mm.
It's its own world. It's crazy, man. Its own culture, its own world, and it's just weird. Not weird, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the same thing in Australia where you tend to find islanders in the same place. Yeah. And like you said before in security, it
Yeah,
just seems like every nightclub you go to, there's a islander bouncer over there. It's kind of awesome because you can talk to them when you have nothing to do.
you can talk to them and you can get in for free too, man. Man, shout out to all the Tongans and Samoan bouncers, man. When I was in my early 20s, and they used to make me look like I was like the man that had a lot of money. I didn't have no money. I was just able to just get in the club, man, and then hook it up. Especially if you ever go to Las Vegas, there's a whole lot of Tongans and Samoans out there. They will hook it up for you, man. That's that's the beauty of it. Even
Yeah,
when you go
yeah.
to the airport, if you get a rental car or you're catching a flight, they'll bump your better seating and stuff. Yeah, that stigma's real.
It's a good job though, I reckon.
It's
Getting to,
hey
getting to
man.
enjoy the nightclub and working there at the same time, I guess.
So I wanted to pivot. I wanted to ask you about the. I've noticed there's a lot of with the with the booming of social media,
Mm,
specifically TikTok and YouTube. See a lot of Australian artists out there. Do they come on you guys' radio show too? Do you guys invite them on?
Yeah, we have a special show dedicated to that. Yeah, Australians are doing pretty well in the music scene. We seem to get artists out there. Same with film as well. Yeah, we have our own radio show devoted to them. Um, Australians are really good at emulating different people. Like they can pretend to be Americans very quickly
Yeah, they're
with the
good
accents
actors,
and so forth.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
Same with movies.
no, that's what I was. Shit, I don't think people realize because a lot of the Polynesian actors that come on Star Wars, on what Lord of the Rings, and all these ones, right? They're all from Australia and New Zealand, and I'm just like, suddenly, motherfuckers, what about us over here in the U.S., yo? We
Oh,
can
the same
emulate too, yo. We can act. We can change our accent if we have to. You know what I mean?
same
And-
with the white ones. Nicole
yes,
Kidman, Russell Crowe.
yes. I'm thinking it's because of the cost. It's a lot more affordable to pay international folks than the ones in the U.S. You know, because we do
Yeah,
know
yeah.
about our rules and our laws. So I see that part on the film industry and even music too. You know, it is tough. It is tough. I mean, I wouldn't say it's tough. I mean, that's why you end up just do your own podcast and your own broadcast, like myself. You know what I'm saying? You can do it out here in America, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the YOOS podcast episode. Don't forget to check out our website at www.yoos.com. It's because of you that we can keep this going. Thank you in advance. See you on the next one. Do you have any closeout remarks, you know what I'm saying? Or any advice for us coconuts, bro?
In America, I've been to America. It is a great country, despite what a lot of people I've heard say about it. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and I can see it. If you look at Tulsi Gabbard, for example, I mean, despite all the controversy surrounding her, I don't support her political part, but just the fact, there's a Polynesian, and she's a woman, and she's young, who can make it that far is an example of, or like this astronaut woman that I'm going to interview tomorrow. The opportunities are there. There's nothing stopping you guys. Yeah.
There you go, man. And what's the astronaut name? What's her name?
Neharika Gambier. Yeah. Neharika Gambier.
Man, shout out to Naharika Gamp. And I'm YOOS.
And I'm Finau.
And we out, baby. Cheer.
YouTube, Facebook, we're here to stay. Tales of the hustle, dreams come alive. Building the future, watch them strive. YOOS, YOOS. Tune in and vibe the drive. YOOS, YOOS. Tune in and vibe the drive. YOOS, YOOS. Tune in and vibe the drive. YOOS, YOOS. Tune in and vibe the drive.